Okay, hello? You there, Sean? The audio's not picking up yet. The audio is not picking up.
Can you hear me?
Okay,
Can you
okay.
hear me?
Yeah. You there?
Y- Yeah, you can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For some reason, there's a delay though. I don't.
You said
Actually, you know, for we'll just hold on. I'll just call you on your phone. I'll just call you on your phone. Hello. Yeah, just hop off Discord. It's yeah. Yep. I can't seem to like hear you that consistently for some reason.
Is this any better?
Yes, that's 30 trillion times better.
Okay,
Okay.
gotcha. I need to find some earbuds. I don't like holding my phone to my face all the time,
Yeah.
but it's okay. I'll take the brain cancer for you.
You could put me on speaker. That works too.
Well, that's how it was, but I think that's why you couldn't hear me as good.
Oh, I see. Um. So, yeah, like how would I develop a game where it's like you got lots of mechanics, and then you have like you also have a story on top of that. Like how'd you even go about making that? And that's an interesting question because it's like where do you even begin on the process of that? And so for me, um, what I've been contemplating about is more so um, I would order what's necessary for me to develop, and then over time I would create like sort of a checklist, and then I'd eventually like develop like go through the checklist and make whatever I need to, or focus on whatever I need to develop from that checklist. And so far, like this, I haven't updated my checklist in a minute, and I really should, but like I have so far like an attribute system that's in progress, conflict resolution mechanic that's in progress, dice mechanic that's still in progress. It's closer to being like having like a test build for it. Um, Premise of the game is complete. Um, Professions complete. Needs more job list, preferably like 12 professions, both for domiciliary and hard labor. But like I have an idea for that now, so that I would say that that's more so complete. Um, that's more like I would put that like developed. An affliction system, that's like that's like the game's fancy way of saying sin. Um, Habits that cause your affliction, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
um, and then obviously because it's the antediluvian world, I have to think about, okay, how do people like how do well what are the wars that go on, you know, in a pre-flood environment? Do people like how often do blood tends to get shed? And I think if Cain died, then realistically there would be a lot more to die.
Yeah, for sure.
so so yeah, but that's like lore kind of, so it's like underdeveloped. And then write a principle about how the players would generally meet. um, that's more like I would say that's more like narrative expositor, like I guess you could say like adventure like an adventure module, and I haven't even came up with an idea for an adventure module because that's like setting up like a module for an adventure requires you to have a fully completed game to do it off of. I can't really do that if my game's not finished. So
Right.
no adventure module yet, but eventually that's subject to change. So the other thing I have to figure out is basically um like I have to figure out the narrative. So and the narrative has well, the narrative has like yet to be fully finished. I would say it's not.
Right. And so, what do you mean when you say like narrative? You mean like overall story of like the existence of the place, or what?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Like what I mean by narrative is more like the lore of the world, the history,
Gotcha.
um the like what you call it, the I get yeah, the history of the world, like that sort of stuff, like human events, right? Like the current event for that time has yet to be fully developed.
Gotcha.
So
Interesting. Yeah, I wonder how all that would work, because, like, I don't know, was the pre-flood world like a Pangea type world where there weren't, like, really boundaries? Because, yeah, there weren't different languages and stuff, so it'd be like a whole global system, I guess.
hmm
What do you think?
I I think I'm taking one, I'm taking creative liberties with it, and
Right.
so like the way that I set it up, the environment is more like it's less of a exact simulation of like the antediluvian era, but more like how would God um deal with a fallen world, but in a different context, and the different context would be more so like what if a different history played out, you know?
Right.
Because one common thing that history buffs love to do is like alternative history
What if
theories.
the Nazis won?
Yeah, that's a classic. What if the Nazis
Yeah.
won? What if communism was stomped out immediately? What would happen?
Right.
So this is basically like sort of an alternate history type game,
Dope.
with many liberties taken with it, because uh, I don't foresee any of this. Like I don't foresee certain things what I'm portraying would have happened if certain events didn't play out in the way that it did, the way like in regards to the story. So right now there's like a great age of like seafaring going on, and it's like the ocean. How do you explain that when like there's no rain? um
Oh, yeah.
and that would have to be attributed to the fact that that there was a geological war between like two factions. One faction had this like notion that um one faction had this notion that if the land was covered in waterways, it would be very efficient, for like society to operate off of that. Um, and then the other faction was like, "That's retarded. We're going to oppose you," and that completely goes against our nature worship, because you're expanding the ocean. We worship the land. You're going to destroy the land for what, like, and so it's basically two religions colliding and fighting basically,
Hmm.
and and they would have developed their own tech or whatever, but the sea worshippers basically won, and so the situation is like the aftermath of the victory of the sea worshippers. And so what happens in a world where like basically like the world is divided up by by pretty much a sea travel by like waterways. So you could imagine like an oceanic stretch of water, basically like starting from like longitude zero on the equator of the Earth, like wrapping or like the longitude zero going wrapping from the center all the way to like the top and then going down, and then like you could basically an entire ring of water that surrounds the entire world. Not like the entire world, but more like the equator and longitude zero on the globe, you could say.
Interesting.
And the way that fundamentally this geological shift has caused this basically like man-made phenomenon. It's caused like mass havoc in those formerly inhabiting those areas, and so now the world is like divided up into like 4 different continents.
Interesting. All right. So yeah, you've developed a little bit of all this, huh?
Yes.
Dope.
The reason why I'm going with this angle is because I need to have some kind of a hostile environment that would exhibit certain traits and attributes from our world, where it's like you can see like certain glimpses of like, so for example, if the antediluvians existed during that like alternate history, they'll be like, oh, don't go to that sea area, there's hostile creatures there and stuff like that. But why is it hostile? Because there was a mass amount of bloodshed. you know that general territory was where the war would take place, and would like where would like a lot of the infrastructural like decimation, or like the ecological decimation would occur. And that's why there's a lot of hostility in that general vicinity. And the fact that it's the ocean is like also makes it even trippier, because like the antediluvians who are just like living on the continents, they'll be like, it's very safe and peaceful on this continent, let's not leave this continent. But then like they'll look at you crazy if you dare leave the continent to go and to try to traverse, unless it's for trade or like whatever. And so it creates it's a reason to create like an atmosphere of scarcity. It's a reason for people to basically like feel the hostility of the environment. For what's also strange though is there's no rain. There's still like the like there's still this firmament pretty much.
Right.
This hard like firmament thing, whatever that is. It's
sure.
Like this water like thing up in the sky. So there's no rain, right? So yeah.
Cool. I mean, for your name.
Yeah, and like, and and so there's a great age of seafaring going on, because like some guy was crazy enough to sail like the entirety of that ring, detailing his adventure. And he also caused the ruckus in the theocratic, like, basically there is a church state body in this game.
Cool.
So church and state unite again, just like how it is today. I'm kind of mirroring, or not mirroring, but more like I'm casting, like I'm using the modern day history as like a way to cast the shadow for the past. And
yeah,
so
that's the move.
And so I'm creating like sort of a proto like Rome system.
Cool.
Taking place in the antediluvian era.
Nice. Gonna have some imperialism going on.
Yeah, basically.
With religious justifications.
Yep. And
cool.
and so I have to think of like, where is the garden, right? Because the garden is like this. It's like where would the garden go? And it's interesting. Like, actually, why did God make, like, why is Israel such like a unique location.
Mm.
Is it low key where the garden is supposed to be? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right, yeah.
well, yeah. Where would the modern day garden go? God says, yeah.
Go ahead.
God says like He's gonna restore Jerusalem on His literally on the geographical like positioning of Israel. So is that where the garden could be?
Oh, I think Ellen White says that like the Garden of Eden was like taken to heaven,
Oh,
like
for what?
the flood.
Oh, before the flood.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I see.
That's all I want to say. But I could be mistaken.
Oh, that's trippy actually. So yeah, the premise is that actually like where the geographical positioning of the garden would be, um, there's a huge like say like a fog surrounding that area, and like and I was gonna originally place it like dead center of like where the currents all kind of meet. That's where I was gonna originally set the garden. The idea that and it would be like the garden it would be blocked off by this really thick dangerous fog. The idea is that the antediluvian like water worshippers they chose that like they want to worship their own god, so they want to basically erase their own history fundamentally. So but they can't like they tried to destroy that physical landmass, but every time they would, like, just doesn't like every like everything bad would happen every time they try to like mess with it. And so the only thing they did is the only quote unquote way to circumnavigate that was they basically created a huge like they created a device to create this fog, like a really thick fog to cover this the area of where the Garden of Eden would be basically.
Interesting.
And so the garden is basically hidden from the rest of society.
Gotcha.
And it's not hidden because God hid it, because man decided that they want to hide from God. So it's
That's
like
cool.
it's like the ultimate fig leaf that was sown.
Nice. That's cool, bro.
So that would be the general like I guess historical setup. So the inhabitants of the world they don't even know that like it's gotten so bad to the point where Adam's name is like basically almost forgotten. Like Adam just sounds like a it's kind of like the equivalent of like I don't know. It's like hearing like somebody who's like lived in the United States like hearing about the president, like of the past. Besides,
Right.
it's like one of those like obscure names that they just don't remember because it's not constantly
Right.
in the forefront of their minds.
Hmm.
So,
Makes sense.
yep. So there's that, and like because of animal experimentation and things like that, like genetic modifications, lifespan also decreased too. So now like the average lifespan is more like similar to our context basically. In more extreme cases, people die at like age 50. That's more extreme. People have sped up their genetics, and or people have sped the deficit of their genetics to the point where it's like it's 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 like ours except slightly better, but it still sucks, if that makes sense. Like
Right.
it's like teetering like for our perspective they'd be superhumans, but for if we were to like compare them to the mainline like timeline of the antediluvians to my what if scenario, like the mainline timeline antediluvians are much more superior.
Right. Interesting.
So like that's the situation we're working with, and the question then becomes, okay, well, what about like Adam's lineage? What about like, the Sethite lineage? And it's like
Yeah,
they
I was gonna ask about that.
they exist. In fact, they're actually like um they're like they're the ones trying to pass down like the oral like
The
accounts,
war.
yeah, accounts of the war and stuff like that, but like but they're in hiding, um less in hiding, and they're more like socially isolated. um that makes any sense. They're kind of like
Yeah.
they're like they're on their own equivalent of like Patmos, you know what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
that lineage, or they're definitely in hiding because like as soon as they're discovered, they they get killed. They finna die basically.
Old Denzi vibes.
Yeah, so they're basically proto Waldensian, um, and so they're in hiding, and like, and but they are responsible for the distribution of so this idea that, okay, where's the literature, right? Where's the writings? Where's the inscription? And I think, like, I would say like, in this account, like the only reason why writing would be necessary, or like maybe ways to telecommunicate would be necessary, is if like um if you can't talk to someone accessibly. And so like as a result, because of the situation that it played out, I because for me, when I look at technology, like why would certain technology advance more than the others? Because there had to be have like a survival need for it, you know what I'm saying? So I guess like maybe the technology in the anti like in our mainline history, like the technology was not necessary for them to like, send telecommunication or whatever, or maybe like it was not in a sense where they needed that stuff. But like in my scenario, it is necessary for like literature to actually be produced. um
Gotcha.
and then thus like begs the question, okay, well, how often do people read? It's like, well, actually people don't read, but they can choose to read. That's like actually one of those like those situations where oral traditions are much more sophisticated, if you're within a congregation of human beings that like, that are that obviously that, if you're within the community. But if you're not within a community, actually literature becomes a necessity, um,
Mm.
because you don't have people to talk to. Like for example, if you're in the middle of the strip of ocean, right? um, like if you're in I called this like, um, I called it the crossing river, um, but like, but that's the name of the geographical phenomena that's occurring in the world. And so like in the Great Crossing, like there's no easy access to the islands that's present there. There's no easy access to. I can't just like take my like, I don't know, like, um I can't just walk into the freaking ocean and like and just go like swim to like to my neighbor that's in there, because it's like very dangerous and I'll die. So like hostile creatures exist there.
Right. Sus.
Yeah, so it's like there needs to be an effective way to communicate, and thus as a result, um, there's a newspaper actually that exists. There's a newspaper company, and like, and they exist to basically scatter the news of what's going on around like the different continents, and the different islands and stuff. Um,
Nice.
so this is like the way that I set up the geography of the world. It actually made it possible for like me to implement our modern day related things into an antediluvian context, only because it is necessary within that world. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So in the case for like the regular antediluvian environment, you know, where there was no geographical wars, where there was no like intense shifting of like the land, that wouldn't be necessary. People can literally just walk to places, you know. And but like in my setting, because of like the nature of like how I set up the events, certain key pivotal events, like certain things are necessary, like certain technological innovations are necessary, like boats, that's like necessary, and like things like newspaper, or like the invention of like writing. I mean, because it's not like the antediluvians couldn't write, you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Like if they wanted to, they could have developed a writing system. But why would they need a writing system? You know, if there was no why, like then a technology just doesn't get developed unless like someone just wanted to develop it for the sake of it, but it wouldn't have caught fire. It wouldn't have been popular, I would say.
Sure.
Because like for example in Rome, fun fact, the steam engine was actually invented during Roman times. The first ever, there's this guy who basically like was annoyed of his neighbor, and so he decided to create a machine that basically like shakes his house to like to basically like to get back at his neighbor, and this contraption like shook the freaking house pretty much.
Savage.
And like, and so like it would have, but the thing is that like you know, like a steam machine wouldn't have been necessary. Well, it would have been awesome, and it would have been so cool to see like Rome like, well actually it would have sucked, because that would have potentially sped up like Rome's conquest even further. But I mean, yeah, I think that's actually low key an accommodation from God to not let that happen, but or to not let it catch popularity. But there was steam engines, or like the most earliest like conception of a steam machine in ancient Rome. The thing is that it was never fully developed or fully actualized.
Right.
Because
Interesting.
so there are accounts in real life history where technology is discovered, but it's just way too ahead of its time, or that it's too outside of its like necessary realm of context.
Right.
So that's
Interesting.
so that's the setup with the story, like is the setup with like the history of this world. And so like yeah, life expectancy is has been decreased because of human intervention, and so that's why people are kind of like scrambling to figure out how to live longer.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So there's that.
Cool, bro. Yeah, man. Send me your stuff. Do you have a map drawn out?
I actually have like a really rudimentary like sphere where I kind of drew like the points on the map, like kind of like a map, but it's not like a fully finished map. I have to figure out a site that I could potentially use as a map, or maybe I could just use Paint and just like use Paint or something, or like I could borrow like Sophie's iPad or something. But yeah, I'll send you the shtick.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, man. I like the ideas I'm hearing. You know, you just gotta get them down and make them happen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
Cool.
that's like, So now I just have to contemplate about like how am I gonna how am I going to turn like how much am I gonna develop this and I think like I have like I have the origin. I have like a general idea of like the like a past calamity and then a present day relevant event. Now I kind of just gotta set up like things like the government structure um and like the various there are the various factions that exist and things like that.
Right. Cool, bro. I'm
Yeah.
here for it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. By the way, is Dana sick?
No, she's just choking.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, no, she's just goofy.
Okay, okay. So
But
she's
I think it's about our bedtime, bro. We're getting old lives.
yeah, sounds good, man.
I appreciate you sharing your stuff with me, bro. It's got my creative just going.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that I get to share because that now it's like helped me to sort out the ideas in my head.
Yeah, man, it's crucial to share what's in there.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh,
Um,
so
but yeah, can you like pray us out, I guess?
yes, sir.
All right, sweet.
Dearly